Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. So, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Amarachi Edison. I am the content marketer at NHM, and I would like to welcome you to today's session, The Future of Real Estate in Nigeria 2026 Outlook, and what to expect in 2026. So this event is proudly brought to you by Nigeria Housing Markets, a media and intelligence company helping stakeholders make sense of Nigeria's real estate markets. Nigeria real estate sector is a key part of the economy, and in Q4 2024, it overtook oil and gas to become the third largest sector in the country. So today's session will shine a light on the current state of the industry as we unpack the future trajectory of the sector, exploring everything from investment flows and regulatory changes to design trends, tech adoption, and the policy shifts shaping the landscape. And I'm actually really excited because we are joined here with a brilliant lineup of experts who will bring each of their unique perspective to this conversation. And once again, thank you all for being here. So let's just get started. So joining me today is the head of research and strategy at NHM, Mr. Bolaji Adebayo. He will present a brief overview to set the tone for today's discussion. Bolaji, over to you.
Hi, Amarachi. Thank you very much for that introduction. Um, and it's my pleasure to be here today to make a presentation. Um, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Please, Lakon, please project the screen. So let's start from the. So yeah, thank you everyone again, once again. Amarachi already mentioned that today's presentation is going to highlight the state of things in the real estate market in Nigeria and sets the tone for today's conversation on what to expect. Next slide, please. So yeah, as Amarachi mentioned, Nigeria's real estate sector continues to grow, driven by macro and demographic tailwinds. She already mentioned that.
Bolaji, if you are talking, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
I can
Hello?
hear you at the end.
Hello?
You're audible, Bolaji.
Hi, Babatunde, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hi, Bolanle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I think there's some people speaking at the background.
Yeah.
So I might just need
Oh, it's a
reduce your
co-working
volume.
space.
Yeah.
It's a co-working
Oh,
space, that's why.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is it
Yes, you
clearer?
can just speak louder. Yes.
Speak louder. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So sorry for the brief interruption. So as Amarachi mentioned, the real estate sector has become the third largest GDP contributor to Nigeria. And it's, in light of this, it's projected to grow by to $2.6 trillion in 2025 this year and in the coming years. And so what can we say from this? The real estate sector is driven by macro and then demographic tailwinds, namely the fact that urbanization continues to increase in Nigeria. There's an housing deficit, policy shift and infrastructure development across multiple markets or multiple states is driving demand. Next slide, please. But despite all of this growth trajectory, it's important to be cautious to understand that there are persistent macroeconomic headwinds that are increasing construction costs and reshaping market dynamics. Among these things is the Naira devaluation that happened in the last 2 years. Elevated monetary policy means it's become expensive for developers to get loans from banks, and also the current inflationary environment. And the impact here is reduced affordability for buyers and increased project costs for developers. Next slide, please. Yeah, but in spite of these headwinds, there are strong fundamentals that are driving this growth in key segments like residential and shortlets. We've seen a rise in shortlet apartments in Lagos, Abuja, driven by the dirty December dynamic in 2024 December. And we're also seeing rapid urbanization, growth in property prices, and an infrastructure and diaspora investment that's become easy and simplified for Nigerians in places like US, UK, and Canada. Next slide, please. Yeah, and then further growth and efficiency will be unlocked by accelerating prop tech adoption or intersection of technology and real estate and favorable government policies. On the side of prop tech, we are seeing key use cases like blockchain, virtual tours. We had a virtual demo on NHM a while back, and then fractional ownership, which means people don't need to own the entire apartment; they could own flats and able to get returns on their investments. Government policies, we're also seeing government policies like the renewed Hope Housing Scheme, FMB initiatives. There's a document on that on the website. That's single digit mortgage interest rates to improve home ownership. And so for investors and developers in the real estate sector, what we our insight here is to embrace PropTech for operational efficiency and market reach, advocate for favorable policy reforms because policy is not just a government thing. The private sector has to play a part in it, and then explore sustainable construction. Next slide, please. So in spite of all of these things, there are critical risks that remain. And here at NHM, we've outlined some of these risks and mitigation strategies. For economic volatility, we advise that developers and investors invest across diverse property types. It's just similar to hedge funding in finance. And for regulatory bottlenecks, there's the adoption of tech prop tech for risk assessments, efficiency, and new business models, and also collaborating with the government for policy reforms. In terms of market saturation, there are growing signs of oversupply in certain luxury segments, and this could result in a drop in rental yields when demand doesn't meet supply. And so, what has to happen here is to leverage on data or market intelligence to develop properties that align with genuine market demand and affordability. Next slide, please. And so by navigating all of these dynamics that I mentioned, the key risks, the growth trajectory, stakeholders can capture significant value in Nigeria's evolving real estate markets. It's poised for growth. The markets will evolve and reward those that are informed and are making decisions driven by data. And then for positioning for 2026, which our panelists are going to discuss today, the strategic focus on mid-market and affordable housing, integrating technology across the entire real estate or PropTech value chain, and then fostering collaboration by working with the government in terms of policy and advocating for an enabling environment. Here at NHM, we provide media and market intelligence to help you navigate this market through research, actionable insights, strategic consulting, and virtual events like this where experts come to discuss the state of things in the real estate markets to help you make informed decisions. Thank you very much for your time. Would this presentation will be sent to all attendees after this webinar, and we'll have it on our website. Over to the main conversation for today. I know I'm actually already mentioned why we are here, and I'm glad to be moderating today's event. With me, I have Ayobami Akindepe. I hope he's on the call. He's on the call now. Okay, we have Bolande Bitola, we have Pacemaker Folabi, we have Babatunde Akinpelu to help us do justice to today's conversation, which is going to be interesting. So I'd want each of the panelists to just take a minute or two to do a brief introduction of what they do, just share their bio with us so we can put faces to the names. Thank you. Ayobami is not yet. Okay, so we can start with Bolanle, ladies first.
Okay. I'm just trying to turn on my video. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bolanle Bitola. I'm the MD of Crayon Development Limited. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this session. Crayon Development, can you all hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So at Crayon Development, we're an innovative and functional lifestyle development company, and we build and try to work towards the lifestyle aspirations of the 21st century individual. We build with the client in mind. We provide functionality and we provide functionality and aesthetics to the lifestyle aspirations of 21st century. So with our projects, you find out that most of our projects are very, very forward-looking, very contemporary, eclectic designs. So it's an honor once again to be a part of this session, and I'll be looking to share some experiences as well as learn one or two things from everybody here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Balade, for that beautiful introduction. We're looking forward to hearing from you too. Let's hear from Pacemaker Afolabi. Yeah. Good morning, Pacemaker.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, anywhere you are in the world. So delighted to be here. My name is Peacemaker Olabi. I head the team at Brass and Castles Homes and Properties Limited here in Lagos. We're a property development company, but we like to say that we solve shelter problems. So we don't just want to be involved in the build sector based on we only doing development, but the ability to also add to the policies or policy makings or regulations. We have successfully delivered over 50 units in the last 3 years. Apartment. We like to measure on apartmental buildings. I like to say that we don't just sell properties at Brass and Castle, we sell investment. I hope to have a fantastic time with Bolanle and Akin and the rest of the team at NHM. Thank you.
Thank you, Pacemaker. Over to you, Babatunde. Let's get an introduction.
Thank you, Mobolaji. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Babatunde. I am the founder with, sound check. Can everyone hear me okay?
So
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome, thank you. Yes, my name is Babatunde. I am the founder and CEO of Nigeria Housing Market. And as Mobolaji was mentioning earlier, we are a company that's driven by the mission of combining journalism with content and data to drive transparency in Nigeria's real estate sector. We truly believe in the power of information and using that as a means to equip every stakeholder within the real estate ecosystem with insights that you need to be successful. We are also very community-oriented platform. We use real estate as the centerpiece to drive meaningful conversations and connections. And on the personal side of things, I am also a real estate investor myself with over 7 years of experience and properties in the US, in UK, and Nigeria. And one thing that I've always been a fan of is the power of data when baked with experience and the right information, and how that's able to really be a difference maker in your decision and how successful you can be in your real estate adventure. So that's the journey that we've been on at Nigeria Housing Market, and we're so glad to have you all here today with us and participating in the conversation. I look forward to sharing what I know and the little that I know, but most importantly, I also look forward to learning from our esteemed panelist of experts that we have on the call today.
Thank you very much, Babatunde, for that introduction. I think with that, we can just kick off. So my first question today is going to be to everyone, trying it open to everyone. And it's a very interesting question. And I want to start from eye level and then come down. So the question is, what's the most important changes? What's the most important trends that you've seen in Nigeria's real estate market in the last 1 year or 6 months, as the case may be? So again, ladies first. So we'll go with Bolanle.
Okay. So if we speak to even when you were introducing and you spoke about real estate being the third highest contributor to the GDP. That's actually very instrumental at this point in time. And even though we've looked at it and it's at, I mean, real estate is contributing about 5.43% to our GDP. We think that's modest, but I think it's one of the greatest contributors at this point in time, because that shows us that there's a lot of confidence returning. It might be slow, but it's steady. One of the other things we're also finding out is also that, I mean, if you look at our population now, our population is constantly rising. And at this rate, we might be almost 400 million by 2050. It's projected that by next year, our population will be about 260 million. So one of the key changes, apart from the increase in GDP, is also our population. So we do have a very young population. And with the young population, there are changes in demand, there are changes in expectations of what people need. And this also this also leads to some sort of migration. And if there's migration, urban migration, everyone wants to come to Lagos, everyone wants to go to the cities. So that also drives housing demand. And right now, we do have an housing deficit. So all this adds up to what we need to that's affecting or that's proposing or propelling the changes in our economy. Then there's also inflation, there's also the tech disruption. And unfortunately, we also have inflation, which has also added to the rising construction costs. All these changes have a way in contributing to what we're seeing in the big picture in Nigeria and will also transcend as time goes on. Let me wait for Peacemaker to speak, then I can also just jump back on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, over to you, Peacemaker.
Well, I think she has said it all. And thank you for saying that. But just to add to what she has said, as of today, three things are the drivers for real estate activity or real estate in general in Nigeria. One, it's government policies. Two is the demand, consumption from the people who are buying these properties. And just like what she just mentioned, our population is driving that. People want to move to the cities. So many rural areas are becoming urbanized areas. So that's the second thing. The third thing also is technology. Technology. People are now embracing technology, prop tech, making management easy for anything that you are doing within the real estate space, or even sourcing for properties, whether it is landed property or it is even built-up property in itself. So those three things are the drivers for real estate itself. But then, if you are now going further, what are the things that we should be looking out for? It is still government policies. It is still government policies. If there are right policies, the real estate is going to be very juicy for investors. It's going to be very beneficial for everyone, either you are bought into it or you are renting it, or just like in the introduction, it was rightly also mentioned, whether you are using it for short lets. So urbanization is going to definitely keep increasing because, as we all know, Nigeria is the government is doing everything within its power to make sure that the economy becomes stable. As of 2 years ago, the economy wasn't stable at all. Today, we're already driving into that. A research was also unveiled yesterday where the real estate contributed over 16 trillion to the Nigeria economy, even higher than oil itself. And so those are the things that I would say that are drivers and the things that we should also look forward to.
Thank you very much, Peacemaker. Thank you very much for that interesting breakdown of what's happening, the important changes, trends. And I like that you touched on the macroeconomy, because whether we like it or not, the macro is going to affect whatever industry it is. And also seeing how real estate has contributed a large chunk to the economy generally in Nigeria. So over to you, Babatunde.
Yeah, thank you. I sincerely think they've said it all. For the most part, I think the fact that real estate just overtook oil and gas as the third biggest contributor to Nigeria's GDP is a reflection of a few things. It's one, definitely a reflection of demand, right? It shows that there's that demand for real estate and there's that demand for housing. But to me, most importantly, actually, it shows that people are still willing to bet on real estate as a safe investment, even in the midst of economic uncertainty, right? So in the landscape of economy that we are currently in today's world, people are really weighing their options when it comes to where and how and when they spend their money. And the fact that people are still banking on real estate up to the point where we are seeing the level of increase to make it the third biggest contributor to Nigeria's GDP, I think that's signifying of something, and that is definitely an important change that's happening right now. We're also paying attention to all of the policy and regulations that's happening within the sector, especially in Lagos, right? So when it comes to things like the regulation around rent payment and looking to introduce a monthly payment kind of regulation in Lagos. And the new requirements also by the Lagos State Real Estate Authority when it comes to license regulations for realtors. So I think there's a couple different moving pieces around the sector that we're going to be paying very close attention to as we lead to 2026. But all of these things are definitely still signifying that real estate is a big player when it comes to Nigeria's economy, and it seems like it will continue to be so, yeah, even further down to the future as well.
Very much, Babatunde. I like that you touched on the policy angle, especially seeing now there's been a rise in policy changes and regulations in places like Lagos. And then Pacemaker also mentioned regulation and policy. I think the days of thinking or believing that the government doesn't have a key role to play in driving change, in driving progress in certain sectors are long gone. But I would like it or not, if we're going to see progress, if we're going to see growth in any sector of the economy, we need that support from government in terms of policy and also what also contributing to policy and how it shapes the industry at large. Thank you very much, everyone, for the introductions. So, oh, Ayobami is here. Okay, okay. Ayobami, welcome to welcome to today's webinar on future of real estate, future outlook. Um, Hi, Ayobami. If you're speaking, if you're on, can you hear me? Oh,
Hi,
it's nice.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Ayobami. So
How's it
you
going?
could, yeah, it's
Thank you for
going
having
well. You
me.
could just, yeah, it's nice to have you here. You could just have a brief introduction, just do a brief introduction in a minute or two, and we can continue. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody, and to the host, thank you very much for the invite, and to my other elders, it's a pleasure to speak by you. So my name is Ayobami Akindepe, and I'm the CEO of Ace Real Estate Development Limited. A young company, we're trying our best in the industry. Over the years, been able to, deliver a few hundreds of unit houses in terraces, fully detached houses and apartments. And also we've played in the land estate side of the market, of the real estate market also. Yeah, that's really just it.
Thank you, Ayobami, for that introduction.
Thank
And then we just go straight into the next question. I think the next question is for Bolande. As you mentioned in your introduction that you don't just build houses, like you're building like a lifestyle and aesthetics for people, for your consumers and then customers. So based on these things, what shift in consumer preferences have you seen in terms of apartments? What shift in consumer preferences are you seeing? So take for instance, 2, 3 years ago, people wanted mixed use apartments, and then now they are changing demand. So what shift in consumer preferences have you seen, or are you seeing rather, in terms of apartments and in building solutions for your customers?
Okay, thank you. So you're right. The shift is monumental. So right now, for the modern Nigerian buyer, I mean, the tastes are evolving. Most clients now are not just looking for a roof over their heads. They are seeking value, functionality, lifestyle. Everyone, you want to literally live somewhere that it's not just I want to sleep, but it's aesthetically pleasing, it's functional, it's efficient. It gives you that home, and not just home, luxury lifestyle finishing. So I'm finding out that Gen Zs and the younger clients, even the older ones, because most people now, the world is a global village. So people are exposed to what's going on in every part of the world, and we want to bring that here. So I'm finding that most of my clients now are looking out for hybrid homes with dedicated remote work zones. They're looking for smaller but smarter spaces. You find out that now we have more requests for 1 and 2 bedroom units, multifunctional, and with access to some community or amenities like green spaces, recreational areas, a mix and a blend of lifestyle amenities. We're finding that most importantly, we're also finding a large request for short let-ready apartments, especially in Lagos, in areas like Lekki, Ikoyi, VI, even in Ikeja as well. So we're finding that a lot of people are seeking for that. And bearing in mind that we do have a lot of diaspora as well. And if you look at it, there was research I saw recently that said that our diaspora remittances have gone up to over 20.98 billion as at last year, which is quite huge. And a huge bulk of it is coming into real estate. So you find out that a lot of our buyers are looking to not just buy a home, but are looking for luxury, value, functionality, and style. So that shift is very there. And also, a lot of people now want automation. You want efficiency. I want to be seated somewhere and just at the click of a button, I can turn on my lights, I can do anything. So that request is it's quite huge right now at this point in time. And the other thing we're also seeing is also in terms of affordability and flexibility. You also said it as well that there are ways in which we are now finding people coming together to either buy a property and also being able to access some of these things. And so for us as developers, one of the key things we are looking at is how flexible are we, both in our design, also in the ability to make it as affordable as possible within the constraints that we're facing. Then I spoke about the hybrid living as well. We're trying to integrate in most of in the project I'm building now, we're integrating work from home spaces even in the project, just so that people have that opportunity to, just come down the stairs and just come into a lounge and work from home, and also have that opportunity to work from home, and most importantly, in style and in comfort. What else again have we seen? I've spoken about smart homes. I've spoken about the use of automation as well. So I think that for me is one of the key things we've seen in recent times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Olale. I think what you said was quite profound in terms of how people are seeing, or people now see apartments beyond just a place to put a roof over my head. So it's a place that has to serve me across multiple functions. For people who work remotely, they want a space where they can do their work without any encumbrance. So that's very interesting, and it's also interesting to see how developers like you matching this demand and trying to solve these problems for them. So, to the next question for today is to Pacemaker. And I know Pacemaker was very, I think he was enthusiastic or passionate about regulation. So, what are the critical or the most critical regulatory issues right now that are slowing down development? do you see any meaningful reform or progress by 2026?
That is a very, very interesting question. So I would say that documentation and approvals is one of the critical regulatory issues slowing down development in Nigeria. From either you want to purchase land to perfection of titles to you want to build on the said land. The process is just too long. There are so many bureaucracies. Yes, let's give it to the government in Nigeria right now. They've been able to introduce other ways where you can get these things faster. But the truth of the matter is that in Lagos today, it is still difficult for you to get a title document less than 6 months. It is still difficult for you to get a title document perfected less than 6 months. In fact, I had to do one recently and it took us almost 8 months. Almost 8 months. Well, the advantage is that you can as well still use your deed to apply for building approval without it fully being perfected. So that's number one advantage. But even when you then move into building approvals, the bureaucracies is too much. As of today, you have to deal with nothing less than 13 agencies when you are applying for building approvals. In Lagos, from you making sure that you are registered with LASRERA, which is like the regulatory body for you to operate in Lagos, to you having to then source for your approval from building control agencies, to town planning, to you having an architect, having structural engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, then to you providing insurance for the project, to you having safety commission, having environmental agencies because they have to carry environmental assessment for where you want to develop. I mean, the bureaucracies is just too much. So that's the first thing I would say, documentation and approval. Second thing that I would say is infrastructure. I will share what we have experienced at Brass and Castles. For all the projects that we have done, executed, we have had to provide infrastructure one way or the other. Either it was the drainage, or it was the road, or it was power. We have had to provide that. Now, let's still give credit to the government. They are trying. There's a lot of projects that the governments are also running in terms of power, in terms of infrastructure. I mean, recently the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road was commissioned. It's not fully completed, but it was commissioned. And of course, it derived a lot of benefit to all the development of all the community within the axis where the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road is situated. But infrastructurally, there's still a lot of deficits, but we give credit to the government for what they are doing. Other time is access to water. We don't have government-owned water system cut across Nigeria yet. So you still have to do massive investment into providing clean water for the resident or for your clients. You still have to do sometimes you spend millions. I mean, I was watching one of our co-developers who was sharing a story of how he had invested 400 million to have clean water for a project. And the company that he gave it to couldn't even provide the clean water. So after spending 400 million, which is almost $500 million, he then now got in-house team for him to be able to provide clean water for that project. I mean, how do you spend that amount of money? But if the government had provided that infrastructure, it would have just keyed into it, pay certain amount of money far lower than what he had invested, and then it will be fine. So I would say those two things, documentation, approvals, and then infrastructure. Like I said, we've seen government trying to make sure that these things are being attended to. But because of the negligence over the years, it's also becoming very difficult for the government. But I appreciate the fact that we, the developers, We understand what we need to do in terms of documentation. We understand what we need to do in terms of approvals. We also understand what we also need to contribute in terms of infrastructure. The last thing I will say is high cost of fund. High cost of fund. As of today, what CBN releases to commercial banks or even to the banks generally for their MPR is about 27%. What that means is if you go to any commercial bank today and you want to go get funding for any project, they won't give it to you anything less than 30%, even 32%. So sometimes cost of fund is as high as 40%. Now, our mortgage system is almost like we don't even have mortgage system in Nigeria. If we had mortgage system just like developed world, we'll have been getting mortgage in single digits, sometimes even as low as 2%. But right now, we don't even have that in Nigeria. If there are drivers for these things, we see that the developers, who happens to be the private sector, are doing their part. The government seems to be doing their part, but they can do more because everything rises and falls in the real estate around what the government policies is all about or what the government has been able to put in place for the developers. So those three things are the things that I will mention. But we also see that it's almost like there's a positive wave, there's also a negative wave. But hopefully we'll be able to balance it and it will become beneficial, not just only for we, the developers, the consumers, and ultimately the government itself.
Thank you very much for the brilliant answers, this maker. I think something that I really liked was how you did the yin and yang in terms of policy. So the things that they are not doing very well at the moment, but there are things they are doing well. And then also to spotlight the role that developers like yourself and investors have had to step in to plug these gaps that are leaking. And I think the reason for forums like this, webinars like this, is to shed light on this matter. And hopefully there's a government policy person in this webinar who's going to take back some of this feedback and also just make it very easy for developers to solve the housing problem across Nigeria. And so my next question is to Babatunde, and it's specifically around the global economy. You know, the world is now a global village, and what happens in the US, in the UK, Canada could have ripple effects to Nigeria. So, in terms of the global economic landscape or outlook, what trends are you seeing that could affect the flow of capital into Nigeria's real estate markets?
Yeah, thank you, Mobalaji. Global economy. For me right now, if I could use one word to describe the current global economy, I would say turbulence. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the world, and it's not just a Nigeria thing, it's a global thing. For the purpose of this webinar, I'll focus on three countries that a lot of Nigerians in diaspora live, which is the US, the UK, and Canada. And I would highlight two main trends that I'm currently following very closely or that we're seeing in these countries. And the two trends are high inflation and high debt. Now, when I say high inflation, obviously comparatively to like Nigeria, it is not that high. But when we compare it to their previous historical inflation rates, it actually is quite high. But just to expand a little bit on what I mean about inflation rate, right? When you look at the current cost of living in countries like, again, US and the UK, it is currently high. Rent is at historical highs, and mortgage is also high due to interest rates. So what we're finding currently in a lot of these developed countries at the moment is that a lot of people are spending their funds on survival and daily necessities. So what that implies from an analytical standpoint, what that implies is that there's not a lot of spare money currently for savings or investment. And that compounded with the fact that there is a lot of debt, right? So when I use the UK as an example, the total public debt in the UK is almost the same as the entire country's GDP. In Canada and the US, for every $1 made currently for an average person, they're spending $3. So, that suggests that a lot of people on average currently are operating in deficit. They're operating in a negative balance, right? So with all of these things and all of this different turbulence kind of going on, it creates a very interesting dynamic for what I predict for 2026 real estate in Nigeria. I think there will be a little bit stagnation in terms of diaspora remittance. It will still flow through, but it will be very, very strict. So for the people that do have the funds and for the people that does have the money to spend on investment, I believe in 2026, there will be a lot more stricter in their demand and their requirement. And no longer would you just be able to say, hey, I have a house in somewhere in Lagos, it has a swimming pool, and that's enough to sell the property. That's not going to be the case. They're going to be looking for evidence. They're going to be looking for data-driven evidence that suggests that their investment is going to yield a positive return, right? So I sincerely believe that realtors and developers that can bake data into their campaigns and use it as a way to illustrate why their project or product is prime will be able to set themselves apart in 2026 and really position themselves for success.
Thank you very much, Babatunde. That was quite insightful. Starting from the global economic outlook, talking about remittances and how it's going to become stricter for um, developers to close out deals. And in the past, people could just go, oh, this house has a swimming pool. But now people need to know that this investment is going to be a store of value. I'm going to get returns on my investments. And I think something else that you mentioned that I found interesting was remittance, because Donald Trump already instituted an increase in remittance tax in the big beautiful bill. So it's just going to be interesting to see how all of these things play out and how it's important to become data driven in terms of strategy, in terms of decision making for real estate developers and investors across board. Thank you. So the next question is to Ayobami Akindipe. I think everyone on the panel has touched on it earlier before you joined, but I'd like to get your perspective to the issue. And it's related to the fact that real estate has become the third largest contributor to Nigeria's GDP. What do you think, or why do you think, what are the key drivers for this shift, and why did that happen?
All right, thank you. So, I mean, it's a very simple math. Everybody needs a house. Everybody needs shelter. I mean, no matter how much you're able to afford, you definitely need a place where you can sleep. So real estate, of course, is always going to be, of course, at the top. Why? Because everyone needs shelter. I think that's really basic necessity. Once a man can eat, he needs a place to also sleep. So real estate will always be on top. But of course, the market is a bit more defined, and you would see that there is a lot more need for affordabilities than luxury. Why? Because there are a lot more people who are unable to really, really afford real estate. So there is always that need and the gap for affordable housing. You get. So that's really real estate always, of course, always be on top. But there can always be times. I don't think there is ever a time where it will decline. I really think there is a time where there will just be a lot more demand on one aspect of real estate. Maybe the affordable aspect, or maybe the luxury. There will just always be demand because shelter is just always in demand, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ayobami. Thank you for the insights to that question. And so the next question is to Mr. Pacemaker. And based on the comments that you made, hi, Mr. Pacemaker, is he still on the call? Okay, yeah, still here. So, oh, sorry. So based on the comments you made last time, talking about the places the government has stepped up and then the places that the private sector, people like you, have had to come into. So what do you think needs to be done? How can there be like seamless collaboration or synergy between both parties to drive development and to make, in the end, to make housing more affordable? Because I only touched on affordable housing and how it's a segment of the market that sometimes people tilt towards too. So, and then given the rising inflation, macroeconomic conditions, people want a place to live in. So what should be done between the public and private sector to drive this, to improve collaboration and then help achieve affordable housing in the end? Thank you.
Okay, thank you first of all, Mobolaji. I'm one of the few people that will really like to drive affordable housing in Nigeria. But unfortunately, right now in Nigeria, there are no affordable houses. Unfortunately, people may argue about it. Even the government, who used to build government schemes or are still building government schemes, have even now made it more evident that there are no affordable housing. So recently, I was our association, Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, was invited by the Ministry of Housing in Lagos to be on a stakeholders meeting, and I was privileged to be on that stakeholders meeting. And one of the things I mentioned to the commissioner was that the problems that we have found ourselves today generally in Lagos concerning housing, whether you want to say it is in terms of land, it is in terms of built spaces, it is largely the fault of both the government and the private sector. The government have their own part. The private sector equally has their own part. And my admonition to the commissioner was that we needed to come together for us to be able to resolve this issue. Now, that is where I'm going to answer your question from Mobolaji. The first thing we need to focus on, it is private partnership. Private partnership or private to private partnership. What we have heard a lot of the time, it is public-private partnership. But I will tell you the first thing we need to do is private-private partnerships, where developers or other people within the build sector can collaborate with each other. Before we now start talking about public-private partnership, which is where the government usually comes on board. And I'll give a typical illustration. On one of the projects that we executed, the entire road was about 400 meters, almost half a kilometer. And I realized at some point that it was going to be difficult for our company to entirely fix the road in terms of drainage system or even road construction itself, or even provide lights for that entire street. So I noticed that we had other developers on the street. I counted how many developers. We are about 15 on the street. I started calling everybody one after the other. And I said, you know what, guys? The government are not going to come to do this road anytime soon. But we can write to the government for them to come and do this road, for them to come and do this drainage. But I believe that if we collaborate, we come together, we'll be able to do this road. Fortunately, everybody that I met, including the people who had been living on the street, agreed. We contributed. We spent a little over 50 million. We did the road drainage. We did the road construction. We provided poles for lighting. The only thing we didn't do was to buy transformer. That was the only thing we didn't do. But guess what? A developer that came after us bought 500 kVA transformer for that community. Now, at the end of the day, if you notice everything that I've said, it is based on private-private partnership. So that is the first thing I will say. The second thing I will say will then be a public-private partnership, which is where the government comes in and with the private sector also comes in. And I think a lot of the time, the public-private partnership that we have seen or experienced is where the government just comes and says, maybe they are giving the developer land for you to build do mass housing and all of those things. I think we need to do more than that. The government needs to start inviting us, the private sector, which they are doing, but it is very minimal. But they need to do it on a large scale. When it comes to policy making, when it comes to decision making concerning housing, generally, at the state level, at the federal level, at the assembly levels, whether it is the local government assembly, it is the state assembly, or it is the federal assembly, including the Senate, where the private sector, developers like us, or developing associations need to create and be part of the policy making. So it's not just about you giving us land to say we should come and build. When you give us land that is already expensive, you don't expect us to provide affordable housing. Lastly, I will say to government, if you can see housing as essential, just like Ayobami just mentioned, if you can see it as essential, there's absolutely no need for you to be charging us unnecessary demurrages when we are importing things to build housing in Nigeria. Because largely everything that we use for construction is dollar-based. In fact, we have sand in Nigeria, but they will tell you that the caterpillar that they use to bring the sand from the water is imported. They will tell you the diesel it was crude oil that was refined, that was imported back to Nigeria for them to be able to do it. And all those things are drivers. They are the microeconomies that are driving how it is even difficult for us to have affordable housing. Right now, Nigerian Port Authority is still reviewing charges for importing duties. And there is no way that they are going to review it to come lower. I don't see it coming lower, and they can prove me wrong. Most times when they are reviewing, it is always going higher. So if the government can see housing as essential, then it will guarantee, one, affordable housing that we just mentioned. But right now, there are no affordable housing. I will leave on this note. Recently, the Lagos State government took over practically all the lands in Ekpe axis of Lagos. And they have asked both developers who have bought from families to come back and come and repurchase those lands from government. As at yesterday, the information reaching me is that an hectare from the government is going for a minimum of 120 million. An hectare is 15 plots. So you are looking at an average of 8 to 9 million for a plot. In Ekpe, there is no way you are going to buy that from the government. And the government will sell to developers. The developers are going to have their own. At the end of the day, maybe when the developers are selling, they're going to be selling for nothing less than 25 million for a plot in Ekpe. Now go to materials that the government are all equally still charging us for duties on it that is equally high. So I feel that if we can partner, if we can focus on this PPP in 2 dimensions, then a lot of issues will be resolved around creating affordable housing in Nigeria and beyond.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mika. Some of the things you shared there, especially around private partnerships and how you've been able to solve some of the problems in the sector. I think it just brings me back to some other industries that are become established where in the initial stages it just wasn't the right business decision to take so long and wait for government or regulators to come and fix issues when 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people will come together in the industry and then solve the problem. Thank you very much. And I think those who watch the recap of this webinar will find some of your submissions quite insightful and guide their decision making. So on to the next question, and it's for Babatunde. Um, in terms of global policy, because you touched on some policy initiatives in the global markets the last time, or in the previous question. In terms of global policy output, what specific policies are worth highlighting for the Nigerian real estate market? So for developers, for investors, for builders, which global policies are worth highlighting for them as they prepare for 2026?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. I think there are two. I mean, there's a lot going on in terms of global policies. especially in the in the developed world. But I think there's two policies specifically that I kind of want to highlight for the purpose of today's webinar, and those are tariffs and immigration, right? And the reality is, whether we like it or not, America is a global powerhouse, right? And their policies have impact beyond just their immediate country, and it has a global footprint, right? So I think right now there is a lot of uncertainty when it comes to tariffs, right? And I think that could lead to a speculative market. Like the current exports in Nigeria for American tariff, I believe is currently at 14%. And as recent as 2 weeks ago, Trump just threatened that is going to add another 10% increase on top of that, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of differences and changes that's literally being made on the fly, where I think that could lead to that speculative part of real estate. And there's a good portion of building materials that we get from America. So if tariffs go up and that increases, that increase will be inflected in building materials, which in turn will also be reflected in the prices of homes in Nigeria, right? So we do see prices going up in 2026. And when it comes to immigration, we're seeing just stricter and tougher immigration policies in Western countries, right? Again, I'm going to focus on UK, Canada, and the US. And these countries are really doubling down when it comes to how and when they allow people into the country. America is even very aggressive in terms of deporting and sending people outside of the country that's currently there illegally. Canada just decreased their immigration rate from, I think it was 40% to like 20%. And so there's a lot of those kind of activities going on when it comes to immigration. And the way I think this would reflect in real estate in Nigeria is that we have a number of people that unfortunately in 2026 just will not be eligible to migrate outside of Nigeria, right? Because of all the strictness that's happening when it comes to immigration. And as a result of that, however, I think that there will be more urban migration within the country. So more people would be looking to migrate to the bigger cities like Lagos and Abuja and so on. And that will clearly drive demand. And I think there will also just be an increase in activities of people living in Nigeria investing in real estate. So right now, there's a big population of people that's investing in real estate are Nigerians in diaspora. Estimates of that around 60 to 65%. I think next year, we'll actually see more activities from the people that's living in Nigeria, especially those who have the funds that they had already saved up for the purpose of wanting to travel outside of Nigeria. But when they realize how strict the requirement becomes to travel outside of Nigeria, the smarter ones will start looking for ways to spend that investment or spend that fund on different investments. And I think real estate is going to be a sector that could benefit from that.
Thank you very much for that. I think some of the things that you touched are quite interesting. Concerns around or policies around immigration. You have the US, UK, Canada coming very hard or stringent in their immigration policies, and how it's going to have ripple effects in Nigeria's real estate market, which in the last couple of years has become quite diaspora heavy. And so it means more people who are based in the country would like to look out to real estate as a store of value and edging against inflation. So I think we can go to the next question. And then the next question is for Bolanle. We've spoken about affordable housing, and Pacemaker made some very interesting submissions on how to solve it. But I'd like to get your own opinion or your thoughts on what practical steps we can take as a country, not just as a state, but as a region, to reduce the housing deficits whether it's policy, finance, or even construction, and what needs to happen now to make real progress. And then progress in this case doesn't have to be, oh, affordable housing or housing deficit reduces in 1 year. Most times it takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years before you start to see, um, will I say, exponential progress in terms of reduction in the housing deficit. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. So if I go back to what I said initially when we were looking at what our housing deficit is, that it currently stands at about 28 million units, which is quite a lot. And I think the government said we would need at least 700,000 units per annum. How that is going to happen, well, I mean, maybe we'll speak to it at this point. So we look at it from three perspectives, as you said, we spoke about. We look at it from the policy, from the finance and construction. So from a policy standpoint, um, Peacemaker spoke about policies, and there's a no-brainer about it. The government must look at how to support us in streamlining so many things regarding land registration, titling, We must look at how do we reduce the bureaucracy, the duplication, most importantly, in the process. Even those that work within the government, trust me, they don't even know how many policies they have. They don't even know how many units or how many departments. We find out that we're having to either duplicate payments or having to speak to different agencies or even different departments within an agency. So in streamlining it now and creating very robust and developmental frameworks would help us in reducing the time spent in getting approvals, in also, apart from reducing time, reducing money, reducing the bureaucracy, and that would also make it easier for new entrants, because the barrier into the real estate market now, or industry, is really high. Apart from the financial, there's the policy standpoint. So if they can collaborate with the private sector, and also find a way of enforcing some of these land reforms, simplifying our title processes, strengthening the PPP, that's private public partnerships, just so that there's an handshake between the government and us, whereby at this point we're like a government to ourselves. We're doing the infrastructure, we're providing lights, we're providing water, we're providing everything. It would make it easier for us to reduce it, because then what you have to do, we just have to focus on building good homes and also affordable homes, and also probably look at fast tracking some of our approvals and reducing all the red tapes and all. Whilst we do have people and developers that are passionate and are looking to build and looking to come up with supporting the government, it's important for the government from a policy standpoint to at least streamline most of these things and make it easier for us to also to contribute our own part. Then on the financial side, which is the second strategy we've looked at, is looking at how to reform our mortgage. Right now, I think the mortgage penetration in Nigeria is just about 1%, which is zero to nothing. Interest rates are over 30%. Cost to build, if you are borrowing at 30%, or even more, and that's minus all the documentation, all the collateral, and all that you have to jump, there's a cost to everything. So if on the financial side, there's a mortgage reform, we're able to, apart from even developers, even those that are looking to buy, able to access affordable mortgage products. I know the Federal Mortgage Bank has reviewed the equity. I think they reviewed it from 15 million to 30 or so. So obviously that's a step in the right direction, but how can people even access it? How can people access mortgage products? How can we as developers even access mortgage or even loans or debts? And how do we refinance? So we're also looking at how do we get microfinance schemes? How do we get access to loans? How do we leverage on bonds, REITs? So on the financial side, there's so much that can be done, even with the banks as well. I know that over time, a lot of things have happened, and sometimes for the banks, it's difficult to get people to probably pay back their loans and all, but access to finance is one of the greatest things that has made it's almost impossible to have affordable housing in Nigeria. So if that can be gotten right, I think we are, in the next few years, things will stabilize. Then from a construction standpoint, we also need to start looking inwards, I believe. I know a lot, I mean, our taste buds are quite sophisticated and everyone wants things from the Western world. But I think it's important for us to start looking first and foremost inwards. How do we begin to source some local material, building materials? How do we standardize some of these things so that we can cut costs and also speed up delivery? Because if we have to always ship things from China, from all, there's a time factor to all that. And anything can happen within that time frame. So even internally, from a construction standpoint, how do we begin to improve our own talents? Right now, at this point in time, we are either looking to source an artisan from Togo or from Benin and even for those guys as well, because of the value of our naira, most of them have even gone back. So we need to start looking inwards, as I said, and probably look at embracing modular housing, start constructing and, prefab technology and constructing modular house construction so that we can actually have mass production, but most importantly, standardize the quality. And I've spoken about, so how do we source local materials? And just most importantly, just look at how do we standardize everything within our building industry. So the number of return jobs are quite a lot. So you cannot say, oh, I want to fabricate this and you already get it. Like I'm working on a project whereby we've used the same person all the time, but now that we're doing it in scale, you've done 2 or 3 good projects and then you now need to deliver maybe 50. And just because we do now standardization, you've actually made a mess of it. So we've had to do it all over again. There's a cost to that. There's a time factor to that. So in summary, I think it's important now that whilst we're looking to reduce the housing deficit, we are calling on the government, we are looking at some of the things to do. It's important that we as the stakeholders and the individuals in the built environment, both the developers, the government, and even the artisans working in this, we all look inwards and find ways of realigning our priorities and making sure that we do come up with strategies that would ensure that first and foremost, we're able to reduce the cost to build, we're able to make sure that the policies that are being implemented are streamlined and are consistent, and just to add value to the clients and to our built environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bamale. That was a very, very brilliant submission, especially around the point of how we need to look inwards, whether we like it or not. Yeah, the world is a global economy, and you are going to trade with other countries or people from other countries. But there is value in trying to build some things in-house. There's value in trying to standardize operations. There's value in taking advantage of modular housing, prefabricated materials to reduce the time it takes to construct housing, and then hopefully collaborate with government in terms of policy to see the housing deficits reduce. So the next question is for Ayobami. And Ayobami, so looking ahead to 2026, what do you anticipate in terms of demand? Do you expect demand to shift more towards rentals, shortlets like Airbnb, because there's a lot of yield or interest yield in that segment, or traditional ownership? And whichever of them that you think there's going to be high demand in, what do you think will drive those trends?
All right. So, great question. First off, there is always going to be a demand. That's what we need to know. There's always going to be a demand. But I think there's going to be a lot more struggle in the market. And when I say struggle in the market, I'm not just talking about people who have access to money. Some people have been able to crack life well and they have access to money. But let's talk about people who are doing the business and actually all into the business and, really trying to, achieve stuff, build houses, give people housing, really solve real life problems and also make money. Just as Peacemaker said, money is expensive these days. Myself, I've gone in search of money and I'm getting over 38, 40%. In fact, I had someone wanted to fund a project from start to finish. He said 60% was what he wanted within a year. How is that going to be possible? There's a project we started last year, January, at 1.6 billion. And within 2 months, our cost of construction rose up to 2.8 billion. And that is how we are finishing right now. We're finishing with over 2.8 billion. Like, how do you, and now you can't access money because the money is expensive. And even when you access the money, now there is a competition in the market, when you want to sell at maybe 100 million, 200 million, you get like, somebody can just come to that location, sell at maybe 70 million just because he has money or he has something. Then the market crashes. And then you would have to literally sell at a reasonable price because also you don't want to just be in the market for too long. In fact, I will go directly into your question, but I'm just trying to help you understand some things. And when you try to, design a functional space, I mean, good finishing, good delivery, I feel like a lot of people in the market also do not understand space. So for example, I have a 2-bedroom selling that I put up for like 295. And someone came to me and he said, oh, it's overpriced, it's selling outrageously, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, fine, it's overpriced, but have you considered the space? Yes, other people in this location are selling for 250 to 60. Can you hear me correctly? Can you hear me? Okay. So I was like, other people in this location are selling for 260, they're selling for 240, and now I'm selling for 295 because that is what would deliver it, right? And now this same space is not the same as what you have in those other areas. Now I'm talking about a location where people are building open kitchen. And now I'm building a unit where you have 46 square meters living room and you still have a separated kitchen. So you have the luxury of space. Even your room, your bedroom is like 28 square meters, right? But in the market, you find maybe like 22 square meters. So the market don't even understand the spaces and the pricing, right? So I'm talking about from the buyer's perspective now, and then the developer's perspective also. The developers do not have access to money, they're struggling. And then the buyers also want to buy, but they are looking for what is cheap. They always want to buy what's, like, there's just that competition of what is cheap. And that's why today there are a lot of projects that are not delivered yet. Earlier in the year, when we had some exhibitions and I was meeting people, I was almost like, what, don't buy anything yet. And that was because I was hearing stories of people who bought projects 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and none of them have been delivered yet, right? And honestly, it's sad, but the reality is inflation has held some people back and they're just not able to deliver, right? But if you look at it, there is always going to be a demand in the market. And the truth is also, this demand can only be met by also what Mr. Peacemaker said, private partnerships, right? Because I don't think the government is willing to do anything at this point. I think the government is only doing what works for them and it's not so much about what really works for the people in this business, the majority. There is the minority, there is the majority. I mean, I once heard about, even in the same country, people being able to access money at almost 9%, right? So it's not a public information, right? So that way, a lot of people will still struggle in terms of trying to access funds and trying to, deliver good projects. But then lately, I've been seeing a few things the government are trying to do. They're trying to really introduce a lot more. They're trying to revive the mortgage system. Let's just put it like that. But of course, one thing frustrating about Nigeria in general and in Lagos that I am currently is access to information. You cannot access correct information. You can't. Even when it comes to doing due diligence on lands, you cannot access correct information. And when you even have correct information, you better make sure that that information is coming from someone at the top. You get, but how it's not a sustainable way to keep going, where we always have to find like someone in the government or a top official to get information from. How long is that going to keep happening? Do you understand? Like the information should be public. If this land is committed, it is committed. If there is availability of fund for this use, let it be public. Do you understand? If there is this land available for the public or for private for private developers to deliver housing, let it be public. Let it be a public information. So when it's a public information, we are able to take that opportunity and also deliver to people. Trust me, there is a lot more demand in the market for affordabilities. A lot more demand in the market for affordability. So there is always going to be demand, but that demand, it will still be a struggle. It will be a struggle. And, and I mean, sadly, today we cannot even blame some developers, right? Because real estate in Nigeria and in Lagos is really crazy. If you're not careful, you might most likely not make a dime. You might most likely not make a dime. So, but then I've gotten into conversations where people make it look like, oh, developers are not supposed to make money. No, they are not in charity business. Do you understand? They're not in charity business and they're not the government. They need to make money, but of course, not compromise on quality, right? But the business and the system is very frustrating. Just like Peacemaker said, to build, to get your building approval, move to site and, successfully deliver a house, you need to go through over 13 agencies. And it's frustrating. Lawman will come and harass you on site. Lawman will come and harass you on site. Local government will come and harass you on site. Even though you have your building approval, they will just come, local government can come and say, and they are looking for money for developmental levy for the area. And they don't do nothing. Drainage, they don't do anything about it, right? And honestly, the only way we are able to really tackle this demand in the markets that would keep rising is to make land available. We need to make land available. Now, one of the contributing factor to the rising pricing in houses currently is land. Lands are getting expensive by the day. In Lekki Phase 1 now, you're assessing land for maybe like 1 million or 1.5 million per square meter, right? And in Ikoyi, maybe like 3 million per square meter. In VI, 3.5 million per square meter. So it's becoming expensive by the day. But if at all, even, I mean, I own lands, right? But I think there needs to also even be a check when it comes to land pricing regulations, right? Because people overprice lands a lot, especially when it comes to joint ventures. People overprice lands a lot. A developer will sign a joint venture today, but you struggle to find maybe like 60-40. People want to do 50-50 on the value of a land that is not even 50%. In reality, is not even up to 50% of the cost of construction, right? But they will overvalue the land, say that, oh, the value of the land is the same as the construction, so we can't do anything less than 50-50. So there's just a lot of things that really needs to be done. And in the likes of places like Ekpe, for example, Ekpe should really be a place where we should have affordable housing. But if some of us who have bought land in this location have to buy it again from the government, how is it possible to really, introduce all of this? Do you understand? So, and maybe the solution also on the what's it called? On the buyer's side also should be maybe them seeing how you just have to buy on time also, because it will not get cheaper. We're in a system where it won't really get cheaper because the people in the government also own these assets. So do you think they don't want to make money, or they are doing charity, or they will ever do charity with their properties? No. So the solution also is to maybe start looking for, trustable developers, start looking for project you can key into, and just do something on time, because it would never get cheaper.
Very, very much, Ivan. Thank you for for answering the question, especially around demand and also the underlying trends that need to be in place for whichever of these tilts that it cause consumer demand goes through, that it's apartment, short-let housing, and also affordable housing. Thank you very much. So my next question is for Pacemaker and Bolani. And the question basically is, if you're a real estate developer or investor, what should you be doing today to stay ahead of 2026, but to get into 2026 and be prepared? Yeah. So Bolande can go first, and then we have Pacemaker next.
Okay, Pacemaker, I'm always going first, though. Are you sure I should go first?
Oh, you want to flip it? Okay, let's have you
Okay.
first.
So should I go ahead?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can.
Okay. I guess the first thing would be land banking. I mean, the way land has been going, you cannot go wrong with land banking. So I would have advise any investor or developer at this point in time that if you do have any interest or you want to really build for the future and you do have some money, it's important to land bank and look at strategic locations in good corridors around wherever it is you are interested in. Ibeju, Lekki, even outside Lagos as well, even in Port Harcourt, Ogun, border towns, just think of that. Land banking, you would never go wrong. I'm not sure in recent times the value of land has ever gone down. I think that's one of the only things that goes up and never comes down. And so that is very, very important. Then we could also look at diversifying your offerings in terms of what are you building. Do you, instead of just building only residentials, you want to do a mix of residential and hospitality? Short-let apartments are actually the in thing now. And I mean, I don't think you will go wrong, especially if you build well and you build or look for prime locations to invest or build in. And as you do that, diversify, you blend some of these things with either co-working spaces, communal spaces, retail, hospitality, if you want to think forward as a developer. Then I think without, it would be a no-brainer if I talk about technology as well. You need to look at what technological innovations you'll be bringing in on board, what automations would you be bringing on board. You would need to be good to invest in some automation technology and also look at collaborations and partnering. Sometimes you might not have all the money, but there are very, very reputable individuals, companies that you can collaborate with. We can collaborate with fintechs, you can collaborate with a couple of investors or financial institutions to bring, and even private individuals to bring your vision into use. Then, I mean, the future now is sustainability. It is energy efficiency. It is looking at, okay, how do you build for the future? How do you adapt to build for the future in terms of what are we putting in our in the building that would positively affect the climate. So we need to look at that, adopt sustainability and energy efficiency into your building, and most importantly, build for affordability and flexibility. Whilst we keep on saying there's no affordable homes or it's difficult to be affordable, but we can, within the constraints that we are, have that back of our mind, build for affordability, build for flexibility, with options to serve renters, remote workers, and even diaspora. And so if you can build with some of these things in mind, I am sure that as a savvy investor or developer, that would put you one step ahead for success in 2026 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Polani. Thank you very, very much. I think one of the points that you touched on that was very interesting to me was the collaboration part, where sometimes you have maybe the funds to do it and then you need another partner. So at times it makes sense to go, instead of going alone, you can go with others. And then also collaborating with fintechs, with financial institutions, because they solve they are custodians of people's money. People want to grow their money, so people want to store it as either a value or they want to invest. And if you meet your buyers exactly where they are, it doesn't take as much convincing as opposed to like spreading it around to everyone, like the entire market segment, as opposed to those who actually fit your target audience rather. Thank you. Over to Pacemaker. I could take the question again, and pretty much it's just if you're a real estate developer or investor, what should you be doing looking for to stay ahead in 2026?
So, thank you for the question. Thank you, Bolanle, because she has rightly mentioned a lot of the things that you need to do. I was equally going to say the first thing that you need to do to stay ahead in 2026 is to think collaboration. That's the first thing. You can't go wrong collaborating. You can't go wrong, although you can have wrong things happen within collaboration, but you can't go wrong collaborating. And that's the first thing I'm going to say, which is what Bolanle has equally mentioned. Number two is that you need to become a data-driven organization. You need to become a data-driven organization. You can't just say you are in real estate and you are doing development or you are selling land. No, you need to follow the data. You need to follow the data. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about NHM. It's a data-driven organization. Data-driven. You can't afford not to be data-driven organization or to run a non-data-driven organization in 2026. So many things are going to happen. Let me shock us. One of the things that is going to happen in 2026 is that it's an election year. It's an election year. Every election year, what that means is it's a year before the election. Every election year, economically in Nigeria, things automatically slows down because of the so many uncertainties that is happening within the economy. So you cannot afford not to back up your things with data and statistics for you to be able to stay ahead. For me, once you are able to do these two, collaborate. And finally, I would say diversify. You know, for a lot of us, we think that once you are in residential development, that's the only real estate. No, that's not the only real estate. That is not the only real estate. There is the commercial part, there is the hospitality part. You need to now start doing research to know how you can diversify your portfolios. We've mentioned how research is driving the kind of development that we are doing now. Bolali mentioned how there's demand for people having offices at home. Because for example, I live 2 minutes away from my house, from my office, rather. 2 minutes away from my office. All our project is max 15 minutes away from the office. It doesn't mean that it should be like that. It doesn't mean I can't do projects outside Lagos or I can't do projects outside Nigeria. But guess what? You can actually do those projects when you collaborate. And you don't need to be in those places. You can just even visit those places and you know what is going. So I will say three things again: diversify, be a data-driven organization, and then you need to spread your portfolio. Those are the three things that I would say for you to stay ahead in 2026.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pacemaker. Diversify, be a data-driven organization, and collaborate. So there are just three key things that anyone moving into 2026 needs to take cognizance of. And on to the penultimate question. This is for Ayobami and Babatunde. I know Ayobami mentioned something around mortgage financing, and that's where this question is going to get it. So where do you think the mortgage industry in Nigeria is headed? Are we likely to see more access and affordability in the coming years? So this is for Babatunde and Ayobami. So Ayobami can go first, and then we have Babatunde next.
Okay, so when there is a problem, there is solutions also. And on a daily basis, people are waking up to creative solutions. And that's the essence of being in a system like this, because there is a problem, but constantly there are people thinking, okay, how do we do this? How do we navigate? Yes, the government, of course, they are the one to really work on that aspect. The best we can do is still the private partnerships. As much as, money is expensive and, it's tough for developers to really access funds, I really think partnerships also help, right? These days, I think we just have to look beyond just the normal way or the regular way of how things are done to more creative ways and opening up to partnerships also. Trust me, the same me who mentioned that I was assessing money at 40%. The same me I assessed money at 20% and at 21%, right? So that's on the basis of partnerships, right? Private partnerships. So there are a lot of partnerships available. Trust me, I've gotten to the phase where I don't focus on what I cannot control. There's really nothing we can do in the mortgage aspect of the system right now, but the only part we can do is to always create a plan and an affordability plan for every of our subscribers or every of our prospects. You understand? There's really not so much you can do on that mortgage aspect, but I think the government is really doing something recently, but let's just see how it goes, right? Maybe because of the election year also coming, I believe that as much as things will be slow, they would also try to introduce some new things, because I mean that's also some of the things we experienced during the election years, the government trying to, introduce this and that just to, I mean, about it. But really much more, I think, is just partnerships we have to open ourselves up to. And I think I even read a question, someone asking that why are we not going outside Lagos and all of that, right? Now, the thing with going outside Lagos is it costs a lot more to build in the East than in Lagos, because trust me, there is no support, right? But I mean, recently I saw the Southeast investment so hopefully they start opening up some of these assets, because trust me, it costs a lot to build in the East and in some of these locations than in Lagos. You rather come and focus in Lagos than go to those locations. But the creative thing, of course, is to still buy land, just as Madam Bolani said, land banking. Land banking is one of the best, things to do at this point, right? But much more, I think we should not focus on how affordable land is. As developers, I mean, I'm a victim also. We've a lot of times focused on affordable lands than just which one do you have more security on. And these days, I realized that you have more security on properties that you probably get from the government or you get in Lagos now. There are a lot of schemes, and those schemes are by the government. So I mean, if you buy land in Lagos now, it's better off to buy what from these schemes. In Abuja, also there is the introduction of the schemes. Also, Wiki is the one giving allocation. So if you want land now, so I mean, I feel like as developers, we should not focus on what we cannot control, right? And just really focus on what we can control. Do you understand? And hopefully also we start opening ourselves up to some international fundings, but also in a system where things are not stable. How much do people want to really, put so much in a system where things are not exactly stable? All through last year, they could be telling you, oh, they're increasing the price of cement today, the price of tiles tomorrow. At some point, you know what? Let's stop putting ourselves under pressure. Whatever price it is, we'll buy it. You get, so things are so unstable. The price of things are changing today, tomorrow, next tomorrow. But we just need to be able to focus on what we can control. And just as Pacemaker said, we use data. In the COVID year and after the COVID year, we realized that the 1 bed and 2 bed was one of the best selling. So data like that can help us a lot more in the market. And also moving to locations, moving from just prime location into other locations, and, just really understanding what the market is like. Like, I believe strongly that this year, the market is tilted towards affordable housing a lot more. And when I say affordable housing, I'm not saying houses of 50 million, but I'm saying maybe like 60, 80 million, 100 million. Trust me, they've sold a lot more than luxury units have sold, right? So I just believe that there is not so much we can control in the mortgage aspect of real estate yet until the government really step in. So rather just focus on what we can control.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ivan. Over to you, Babatunde, on what your thoughts are on regarding the mortgage industry and if we're likely to see more access and affordability.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Oblajen. I think Ayabami also touched on a lot of the points that I'm thinking myself. But if I was to add, I think the mortgage industry is a little bit interesting, right? It's faced with challenges that honestly will take some time to overcome. I do think it will become more accessible, keyword, but not affordable, right? I think Nigeria is taking baby steps towards an open banking system where it would be a little bit more easier for you to gather the information you need to apply for a mortgage. However, I think as a country we have a long way to go, especially when you're operating in an economy where inflation rate is at a double digit, right? And when you think about lenders, whether it's private or commercial, they are also looking to make profit, right? So when your inflation rate is at double digits in 20%, as an example, the product, such as mortgage, will also remain in double digits when it comes to the interest rates for mortgage, right? So when you're looking for affordable mortgage in a country where inflation is double digits, that's more than likely not going to happen anytime soon. Unless the government becomes really aggressive with incentives and really trying to step in when it comes to providing affordable funds, whether that's for investors or for developers that's building the properties. I do think that there is a really unique opportunity though for private investors or just private entities to kind of step in a little bit and capitalize on this industry, right? So especially for those with funds that can be brought in from foreign, right? So if you're coming from countries where interest rate is operating within the 2 to 5% kind of premise, I think there's a really, really unique opportunity that you can take advantage of when it comes to the mortgage industry in Nigeria, where you could provide some private solutions that could be very competitive to what the government is offering and what the commercial banks are offering, right? So to answer the question in a nutshell, will it become more accessible? Yes. Will it become more affordable in 2026? I don't see that being the case just yet.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, especially around open banking, which is a new regulation that the Central Bank of Nigeria is instituting. I think there are guidelines for that. It's been in the works for over 2, 3 years. So it means banks or financial institutions can have more data, financial data, similar to what Play offers in the Western market. And it's just going to increase that, reduce the information asymmetry generally, data asymmetry. And maybe not going to happen next year, but the internet consequences in the next 2, 3 years, you have a guideline, you have a rule for that to happen, and also investments from overseas. Thank you very much, Baba, today. Before we go to the final or closing question, we have some questions from the audience. And then I don't know if how we're going to, but I think the first question is going to be Bonale is going to answer that because it's a question that the person asked based on one of the things that she mentioned. And the question is, what are the factors to consider before choosing a right location to purchase for land banking?
Okay. So I think it's you just look at access to amenities. So most people will want to look at, okay, what amenities are close by. That would determine That one. Then also the infrastructure. So when we look at amenities, are the roads good? Is the water around the area, even if it's not good? I mean, how are the roads? Has water? Are there schools around? Access to schools, hospitals, the highway, how close is it to your nearest bus stop? Proximity. Then we also look at the modern areas. You look at how close is it to your workplace. A lot of people think about that. How do you want to commute? What's the distance between it and maybe the nearest, should I say the bus stop or the schools, or, access to amenities is very, very critical to a lot of people. And you find a lot of people congregate around that area, around those locations. Then also, people also, I think, tend to gravitate towards areas where they think they might find like-minded people, or people that they're able to either do business with, or just areas that have amenities. Amenities, I think, are very critical, and especially for young families. So you want your kids to be able to visit. It might be a park, to go to good schools. Then also we also look at proximity to a lot of things. So I think it's almost access. Access is very, very important to a lot of people. Then the location for people would also now drive one or two other things. So if the location or the proximity is close enough, you find out that people start congregating around that area. Then also the costs to build. Then also a lot of places are opening up. So if the location might seem too pricey, people start thinking about where are the border areas. Then that's why you find places like in Ogun State. What's it? Is it where in Ogun State that's opening up more now, Mowe, Ibafor, and all that. Yes. So basically, people look at new growth areas as well. If areas are quite saturated, then they start looking at where are the new growth areas that they see potentials for expansion that might happen. So then you think forward that, okay, if this place is not booming now, what is close enough? So you find areas like the Lekki Free Trade Zone. I know it's been ongoing for so long. Before Dangote completed it, we used to talk about when people are pricing there, they'll say, oh, it's 10 minutes drive from the Lekki Free Trade Zone. And I used to ask myself, when is that going to happen? But now you see that place has really grown. So if you are thinking to land bank and the locations you're looking at are saturated or too expensive, then think about the next new thing. But data will help you. It will be good to look at what data is saying, and NHN is doing a very good job in projecting and analyzing. So I'm hoping that over time, NHN would have, you have a database where you can always send your research and projections to. So people can actually begin to think of what do we want to do and how do we want to begin to think ahead, so we can leverage on such data to make the right decisions towards land banking and projections. I hope I've been able to answer the question.
Yes. We got everything you said and they were spot on. I think Ayabami has answered one of the questions from the audience where the person touched around why is there no conversation around building in places like Edo, Delta, and then just the final question which would Mr. Pacemaker would answer. So someone is asking like what should they do, or what is your advice for someone with just 3 million naira who wants to invest in real estate?
Land banking, which is the first thing, which is what both Ayobami and Bolanle have said, land banking. And you have to look for areas with potential. Other thing might be that you have to look for reputable real estate development company who are either selling lands or have investment packages or products that you can invest into that will give you returns. 3 million is not so much of a lot of money. In fact, I don't think there's anywhere you can buy 3 million naira land right now in Lagos. I don't think there's anywhere. I might be wrong, but I don't think there's anywhere. But there are places not too far from Lagos that you should be able to, and that's where the land banking will come in. And in doing land banking, Bolanle has equally mentioned things that you need to look out for. You need to look at where, one, government is going. where government is going. So if government have futuristic projects in the future towards a particular location, then you know that it's advisable for you to do land banking in that area. Other things that you can look out to in terms of land banking might be to look into agricultural real estate or agricultural real estate, where you can buy lands that you can harvest, that you can plant on, and the thing will grow for you, and you can start earning passive income or residual income pending when you can then now resell it. Other than that too, I don't think there's anything that you can do with 3 million successfully. And that is why we encourage people also that the best time to buy land is now, or the best time to invest into real estate is now. 3 million many years ago was a lot of money to invest into real estate. Lekki Phase 1 was actually being sold for 2 million a little over 20 years ago. 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. But now, Lekki Phase 1 is going for 1 billion and above. So imagine if I had bought Lekki Phase 1 for 2 million. No, let's even use the 3 million. I bought it 3 million, I built on it. Maybe I used another, maybe 20 million back then. That's 23 million. Today is worth over 1 billion. I don't even know how many percentage you are going to factor that into. And maybe I wasn't married then. 20 years later, I am married, I have children. I can easily resell it or even do better things on it, pull down what I've mounted on it, and then do something better, or even go into joint venture partnership, which is one of the things I also mentioned. And you are going to be getting even times 2 or times 3 of that 1 billion that the land is even going for. And so I'm glad that you have 3 million, but those are the 2 things that I can advise you to do with it.
Very much, Peacemaker. I think whoever asked that question in the audience and listened carefully to your submission will go home and have a sense of direction as to what to do. Either they are doing fractional ownership investments in real estate opportunities with a licensed broker, they are trying to do land banking into an area with potential, or just whatever it is that meets some of the advice that you shared. So this is our final question. It's been an interesting time speaking with everyone on this panel. And so my final question now to everyone is in one sentence, how would you describe the future of Nigeria's real estate industry in 2026? So you can describe it in terms of consumer demand, in terms of technology adoption, in terms of policy, just whichever way you want to go, just in one sentence. So we'll start with Ayobami.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to answer that question from where Peacemakers ended is. And that's almost talking about the person with the 3 million naira. Trust me, the value of money keeps depreciating, right? Especially the value of naira. Yes, the value of naira keeps depreciating. It's sad. But that means your 3 million naira is only used for this year. Next year, you don't know what it might be able to do, but money is money. But don't let a lot of money become almost nothing to you. So when it comes to real estate, some of the things that I've come to realize is there needs to be, if real estate will be accessible to everyone, because many years ago, real estate was not accessible to everyone. Trust me, it was only accessible to, the 1% and to the people close to the 1%, right? But today we have a lot of people. Myself, I started real estate from literally nothing, right? In fact, like I started estate from nothing. I don't have a father that has property I don't even have a father. My mother does not have any property anywhere that I would have said I started with. You get, nobody gave me a property to start with. You get, or none of my family members. Do you understand me? So what I mean is, like, if it's going to be accessible, then we have to start some collaborations right now. And what I mean is, with your 3 million naira, you need to start seeing how you can collaborate with some other people to buy in some aspect of Lagos. Trust me, Lagos is expensive, but there are some other aspects. So when the thing is this, just like any investor or anything you want to do with money, you need to understand first, this money that you want to use, is it a short-term investment? Is it a long-term investment? If your 3 million or your 100 million is a long-term investment, why not buy land? They grow. You can buy land, especially in the growing locations. And yes, that 3 million can still buy something in Ibadan, can still buy something in probably Mowe, can still buy something off Ikorodu, off Imota Ikorodu in Ogun State, these growing locations. But that is if it's a long-term investment. If it is short-term, you need to collaborate with people. With your 3 million, look for other people that have 3 million. You can buy an apartment on the mainland. You can buy an apartment in Yaba. There are a lot of young guys building in Yaba currently. And if you see the prices they are selling this apartment for, it is reasonable, right? These are places people can co-invest in. In Aja, in some of these locations, you can co-invest there. You get from co-investing to owning, one unit. It can be on shortlet, it can be on Airbnb, it can be on rent house. But at least the fact that there is something that the money has been able to hold down, it has more value anytime you decide to liquidate it than just remaining in the bank or just remaining there. So let your money work for you. If you want it to be a long-term investment, buy land. If you want your money also to be money that you're making reasonable money from. In fact, these days, people buy shops. That is another aspect people do not focus on. And shops are not even expensive. That is another aspect. In Aja, in some of these locations, shops are as low as 13 million naira, right? Of course, smaller square meters, maybe like 30 square meters, 25 square meters. But that you make, 100K, you make 500K. The most important aspect of any short-term investment or any investment you want to make is cash flow, right? If it can give you cash flow and the resale value also makes sense, why not key into it and go for it, right? Because holding on to the money would not yield any value in the long run, right? So I think the future, of course, is a lot more collaborations within the private. But I would say when it comes to even collaborations within within private, sector and within developers, trust me, it's not everybody that is open to collaboration. Let's not even lie to ourselves. We've been talking about collaboration for a long time, but not everybody is open to collaboration. And I think people are not open to collaboration because the terms are not exactly defined. So the terms are not defined as to what exactly are we able to do together that I cannot achieve on my own? Do you understand? Or so the terms are just not defined. So there is really very little collaborations in the system. Check it today. As this is 2025, how many people are collaborating? How many companies are actually partnering with other companies to do things? How many? But we just have to keep encouraging it, right? But much more, the future is a lot more collaborations within developers and also within the subscribers. Do you understand? It's a lot more collaborations because it will keep getting expensive by the day. So let your money work for you, but diversify, just the same way Peacemaker said. There is the commercial space of real estate. There is the residential space of real estate. And there is the land banking. Diversify. Use research, but understand what you want your money to bring back for you. If it is long-term, if it is short-term, know what your money should do for you, right? But in a system like Nigeria, you should not invest in anything that is not going to give you cash flow or give you value within the shortest period of time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the answers. Let's move over to Olale. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So in some way, first and foremost, thank you for this session. It's so much to learn. So I said it all. So I will just summarize or say that for me, I think Nigeria's real estate in 2026 will be more inclusive across all sectors. It will be more tech-enabled and quite much investor ready, because now the volatilities in the past 2 years have started coming down. So there's more investor confidence. And all this will be driven by innovation, urbanization, and a general shift in how we as individuals want to live and how we as individuals and developers would invest in spaces. Thank you very much.
Well, that was short, sharp, and crisp. Over to you, Peacemaker.
You want to ask me the question again, just like you usually do?
Okay. Let me ask you the question again. So, in one sentence, how would you say, how would you describe the future of Nigeria's real estate industry by 2026?
So I would say it's going to be challenging. As I've mentioned that before, because it's election year. There's no need for us to lie to ourselves. It's going to be challenging. It's election year. And like Ayobami also mentioned, where there are challenges, there are opportunities. Where there are challenges, there are opportunities. And so the best way you can see 2026 is not to see it as a challenging year, but to see it as an opportunity year for you. And we've shared so many ways how you can get involved in real estate. The challenge for a lot of people is that they only think of residential real estate. You now need to start thinking of other sources of real estate. Other thing that you can also do is you may not need to be an active participant within the real estate space, but you may need to be a passive participant within the real estate space, where you buy into, you co-own projects, you co-own or you do agricultural investing kind of thing. There are so many real estate companies that are selling land portions for them to harvest for you. You can do that. The other part also is that you can come into the real estate space by playing on the deficiencies that is currently going on. Bolale has mentioned, the three of us that were on this panel, we developed here in Lagos. One of the biggest challenges we have had to have in the last 1 year, it is with artisans, technical skills, technical skills. A lot of the Western African parts of the continent artisans that we use are running back home because the value of Naira has become nothing in their own country. Either it is Togo, either it is Benin Republic, or even Ghana. It's almost like Naira doesn't have any base. And so when you come in with technical parts, as a technical skill provider for projects, trust me, I will hire you, because to manage artisan is another drama entirely. So you need to start seeing real estate from a passive part of doing or being involved in real estate. Not only for you to just think about, oh, I have to buy land, I have to buy a building, I have to buy into projects. There's a lot of money. There's materials to be used. There's tiles, there's plumbing materials, there's electrical materials for you to use. And guess what? A lot of these suppliers, they are mega millionaires and even billionaires, but they are in the real estate space. I will shock you. An interior decor person traveled to Asia to have a 40th birthday recently, and it was mega. It was massive. It was massive. She's in the real estate space. She's in the real estate space. So you need to have an open mind. So look at real estate from opportunity parts of real estate itself in 2026.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Major. Especially touching around seeing challenges, but also thinking around or seeing the opportunities that these challenges present for you as a new entrant into the real estate industry. I'm not just seeing it as, well, I need to buy land, I need to build. And then last but not the least, Babatunde, what are your thoughts? What do you think is the future of real estate in 2026?
Yeah, I think everyone mostly touched on all of the points that I was thinking of as well. If I could add one thing just to the topic of like, do I spend 3 million? I think one other aspect that a lot of people are either not aware of or are not taking advantage of is also fractional ownership. And we do have some companies and some developers that are that's tapping into that opportunity right now and creating unique opportunities for people to, yeah, co-own or own a fractional piece of real estate, right? So you could have a project that in whole it's worth like 100 million, but you have 3 million where you could buy a percentage, right? You could buy a percentage of that specific project. And usually that's more of like a long-term strategy where you're backing on the assets appreciating over time. In terms of how would I describe the future in 2026, I think to what Mr. Peacemaker had mentioned and Bolanle and Ayobami, it will be a challenging year, but I do think it's also another year of growth, similar to what I think. I think prices will continue to go up. I think we'll see a little bit of a slight shift in the profile of the people that's investing in Nigeria. And the one other part that I want to mention is that I genuinely think there will be another boom, if I could use that word, in prop tech. I think right now a recent report by Tech Cabal actually showed that the foreign investment in tech period in H1 had risen by like a significant percentage in comparison to H1 of 2024. And I don't think real estate will be left out from that investment. I think real estate is also going to tap into that and take advantage of that foreign interest in 2026. And prop tech will essentially see a part of that. We'll see a part of that investment as well. So I think overall, the country is growing. Real estate will continue to grow as a result of that, and we'll continue to see significant investment interest across the board.
Thank you very much, Babatunde. I like that you took it from the technology angle just to tell us what to expect in 2026. It's been a wonderful time speaking to everyone. So, if there are any audience questions that we couldn't answer today or right now because our time is fast spent, we would send response to whoever it is that asks much later. And so we've come to the end of today's webinar, but just before we go, we're going to give each panelist 5 minutes to talk about any interesting project it is that they have going on, like an ongoing project or a future project that they would like the audience or general public to be informed about. So we start from whoever wants to go first. I don't want to call names this time.
We'll start from Bolanle as usual. Ladies first.
No problem. I was actually even just turning on my camera. Okay. So I'll be talking about my most current project, which is almost like my baby. It's called Burgundy Condotel by Crayon Development. And what we're looking to build is, and we're tapping into what the future is, short-let rental. So we're building 36 units of one-bedroom condotel apartment. So it's almost like apartment hotel. So we're building an apartment style, and basically for investors and people that are looking to buy, you can actually buy into that project, and it's located in Lekki Phase 1 by IMAX Cinema. It's about so I won't go into the price, but you can always DM me later. But basically, I'll just talk about the amenities. So we're building for the future. And as I said about Crayon, that we develop functional, aesthetically pleasing, efficient apartments. So our one-bed apartments are going to be solely for short-let rentals. So it will be for those investors who are looking to make passive income. And we'll be looking to also manage it for you. So you don't have to do anything. All you just need to do is just buy into it. And we can even, apart from building, we can also furnish it for you and we'll manage it for you. And basically the apartments come all fully, it's 1 bedroom with on the first floor would have a lounge and it has an infinity pool. It has a laundromat. It would have a work from home space. It would have it would have a gym as well as what else? A gym, laundromat, work from home space, infinity pool, and also other it has a few other amenities that I cannot think about now. But most importantly for us is we're trying to give people that blended lifestyle. You don't have to go to work. You can just get everything. And you would also have a living concierge as well. So if you decide I do not want to go out in 1 week, you don't need to because we have a supermart as well in there. And opposite us is the IMAX cinema. So you don't even need to, everything you want is just less than 5 minutes away from you. And trust me, our finishing and everything is top notch. So any investors, anyone looking to buy and looking to invest in short-let real-time apartments, and I can also guarantee at least a minimum of 70% uptake in your short-let apartment because we do have a pilot which is just down the road. And we have had off-takers that have not had anything less than 70%, at least. Okay, just to be conservative, I'll say 50%. But so speaking from experience in the past 1 year, because of the level of finishing and the quality of our apartments, all the ACs in there are concealed, at least in the living room. We also try to see how we can help people manage space and also manage finances or make it as well, I won't say it's as affordable, but I know that you will get returns on your investment and it is 101% value for money. So that is one project that is I'm really very passionate about as we seek to build or as we seek to do projects that would compete with any projects in Nigeria and even in the diaspora. So thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure spending this past 2 hours with everybody and getting to meet Ayobami and catch up with every other person. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Balande. So let's hear from Ayobami.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Bolani. It's a pleasure to meet you too. All right. Like I mentioned earlier, okay. Basically, we have a few very interesting projects going on at the moment. And we've also expanded into another state. We have projects in Lekki Phase 1 at the moment also. More of residential and also for use of shortlet also. I mean, key location is Ofala Sibo. We have projects in Victoria Island, and we also have in VGC also. And I mean, looking at also, catering for the other aspect of, the affordable markets, we also have lands in the likes of Ikorodu and Ibadan. And that we started with our sister company, but we had to, still bring back to ACE. And that's because we really wanted to just create affordable property for people. And honestly, we've gone ahead to getting C of O's for all of this land. So they're not lands that we're even just selling without security. And interestingly, these are lands that we're selling for like 2 million, 1.5 million, and they have C of O. So you can imagine, at the same time, we've expanded to Enugu State, a growing city at the moment and a growing state. The government is really doing so much in that space. And we have a project there at the moment. Of course, sadly, it's not as cheap as I would have loved for it to be cheap. It's about 10 million naira per plot. And I mean, I think it's still really affordable, right? And it has a C of O. It's a good location, literally 10 minutes to the city. And much more also, we have a project I've been working on for over 4 years of my life now. It's called Prop Stock. In fact, I would say that's one major thing I've really been building for a long time. And I really love the idea, but having to work with a lot of people on the project and the time also. In fact, a lot of people have gotten the ideas for me and gone ahead to launch theirs. And the project is very simple. It's called Prop Stocks. Prop Stock, buying properties like you're buying stocks. So the same way in the stock market, you can see where it's selling better, which stock is doing better, and which company. The same way also in real estate, you'll be able to see where to buy and where you can make the most money for whatever amount you want to buy. It's almost the same idea with being able to buy in bits and in units, but much more than that also. In fact, in 2022 or 2021, when I was in Dubai, and I was sharing the idea with some investors there. As at that time, one of our major idea was to be able to have people buy real estate with cryptocurrency, right? And at that time, there was nothing like that in Dubai. But after like a year or two, now in Dubai, people buy, properties with cryptocurrency. And also in Nigeria, I think the government have also allowed, the whole crypto thing come back. So, and these days you can see how much crypto is doing well. So as much as people might have money in the cryptocurrency space, they are also able to buy properties with, some of the stable coins also. But that's a project we're looking to launch fully by August, September this year, by God's grace. It's called Prop Stock once again. And yeah, you get more information. We have our project also. They're growing. If you like to connect with me, I'm open anytime. Email, Instagram, anywhere at all. Thank you.
Here, Yavani. So let's listen to Mr. Fishmaker.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been awesome time sharing platform with Bolanle and Ayobami, including Babatunde and yourself, Mobolaji. Thank you for the invitation. I would say congratulations to everyone who has been on this session because some of the information that we've shared, some of us have had to receive this information over 20, 25 years lifespan experience. And that's what we have come to share with everyone on this platform today in 2 hours. So I will say kudos to you. All the information that you have received today, run with it. Run with it. I can tell you for free, not because I have played in the industry for about 20 years, but I know the panelists. Also, I know everyone, practically everyone that has shared information with us today, and I can tell you that they have shared information out of their experiences, and they have not come to share anything with you or with us that will not be beneficial to us. So that's the first thing I will say. For projects, what do we have? We have the Pair Lagos at the moment. It's a development that comprises 1 and 2 bedrooms. Like almost every one of us have equally mentioned, is for short-let purposes, not only for short-let purposes, but majorly for investment purposes. It's a 1 minute drive from the Lekki Expressway, 5 minutes drive away from the newly commissioned Lagos Calabar Coastal Road. It's on a motorable road. It's located in Ikate, which is one of the fastest rising development area or developing areas within the Lagos axis. It's a project that is very dear to our heart, not just because it's our, should I say, our fifth or sixth project, but it is because it comes with a lot of intentionality. It's going to have electric vehicle charging port because we are already being futuristic about people living in a development. It comes with swimming pool. It's close to the ocean. It has energy saving connections. It's going to also be partly powered by solar inverter system. It's going to have a gym. It's going to have a lounge, and the rooms are very sizable, very sizable. 2 bed is the minimum will be 100 and almost 150 square meters. And so when you are buying into this, you grow into space. It's not something that you buy today and tomorrow you're already tired. It's going to have a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of it. We just started the phase 1. Fortunately, it's selling very fast. And so I would like to use the opportunity to tell you congratulations ahead if you are subscribing into the project, and it is going to be very profiting for you. I will share a story and I will end with that. Everyone that has bought into our project have either had to come back to buy another project from us, or they have had to refer people to buy project from us. And almost every one of them have had to buy more than one unit from us. Either they bought two, or they bought three, or they have bought people who have bought two, who have bought three. So what we've enjoyed is that we've had as many new customers as return customers, and that is very, very rewarding for us as an organization, because we are data-driven organization and we are research-based organization. So I invite you to be on board as you subscribe into the Pair Lagos.
Thank you, Mr. Pacemaker. So yeah, last but not least, let's hear from Babatunde. What interesting projects does he have for us?
Thank you, Balaji, and I want to take the second to thank everyone for honoring our invite. All of our esteemed panelists, we truly appreciate your time and all of your insights and expertise that you brought to today's webinar. And for all of our attendees, we hope that you got one or two things from today's webinar. And again, for whatever question we weren't able to get to, you will be getting a direct response from someone from NHM on your answer. And we'll also be sending some of the materials, including the projects that the developers and everyone have spoken about so far. We will be sending you more information about those in your email. Yes, for us in NHM, we have some exciting things going on, but the one that I want to highlight for the purpose of today's webinar is that later this year, we will be launching Nigeria Housing Market Community. It is an exclusive members-only platform where you will get in-depth reports and data that you won't find anywhere else. We will be giving you weekly briefings on mortgage reforms, land regulations, infrastructure projects. We'll be hosting webinars and interactive Q&A sessions like the one we had today with top industry experts and analysts providing their experience and insights. And above all is the ability for you to have a private forum and networking ability and opportunity with other investors and developers and real estate professionals across the industry, right? So when we talk about, oh, I have 3 million, I want to partner with someone like I think Ayobami mentioned, right? Where do you find that person? Where do you find those other people that's looking to invest in real estate alongside with you? Well, that's the kind of solution that we're bringing to the market. So I want to invite you to be among the very first people to join our wait list. On your screen, there should be a QR code coming on right now that you can scan and use to join the wait list, so that you are one of the people that get to test the platform before they even launch to the market, and also get to be one of the very first people that will get invited to kind of play around with the community before it goes live. So again, imagine having the data, imagine having the access, and imagine having access to the network of people who share the same passion and ambition as you. And that alone could really position you for smarter deals and faster investment decision in 2026. So again, use the QR code on your screen, enter your email, we'll send you all the details, and you'll be getting an invite from us in the next few weeks before launch. So thank you all again for being with us today. We cannot wait to welcome you into the community where Nigeria's future really comes to life. And we look forward to having more and more conversations like the one we had today.
Thank you very much, Babatunde. Thank you very much, Smika. Thank you very much, Aravan. Thank you very much, Bolande. Thank you for everyone for joining. It's a Friday by 1 or 2. Most people are trying to either wind down at work or trying to get lunch. But for everyone who stayed from the beginning right to the end, or even those who had to drop off, I really, really appreciate you. Please follow NHM across social media. That's LinkedIn, Instagram. Check our website. A lot of interesting news, policies, resources to help you make sense of Nigeria's housing market. And don't forget, you're going to get a recording of this session on our YouTube channel and the presentation deck that I made. We're going to share that too via email to everyone. And all of the things that the panelists mentioned, the projects, developments, we'll get them from them and then share with those who are interested and also answers to your questions. Thank you very much once again. It was nice to speak to everyone. See you on the other side and some other time. Thanks.